Well, isn't Henry just looking peachy? With the switch to Welsh coal fuel, Henry has been doing amazing. He no longer has had iffy days out on the rails. Winter had came to the island of Sodor, and Henry was about to take a very important train known as the Flying Kipper. Like any imports that come into the country, many of those goods are given to the businesses within the borders. However, goods can also be transported to other lands as well. This in particular is what the Kipper is all about, and what Henry was revving up to pull. This is also the first time we see the docks on Sodor. And another crane, by the way.
Don't tell Gordon, but I think if we pull the Kipper nicely, the Fat Controller will let us pull the Express. Hurrah! Cried Henry. That will be lovely.
It is really gratifying to see Henry in finally such a cheery mood. Earlier the next morning, Henry arrived at the quay. Not long after everything was set to go and Henry started. Feeling convinced nothing was going to go wrong, Henry fearlessly hauled his train down the frosty line. Even the freight cars were rather cooperative. Sure, they're not the signature troublesome trucks, but freight cars will be freight cars to some degree.
Come on, don't be silly, puffed Henry to the vans. The vans shuddered and groaned. Trock, trick, all right.
Ah, the viaduct! Who knew we would see that in the wintertime, and from a different angle? In fact, there are several shots here that are somewhat reminiscent to other Henry-related episodes, but this time covered in snow. Are we taking a trip down memory lane a little bit here? I'm also digging the holiday-ish type rendition we get for Henry's theme as well here. It's really the Flying Kipper theme in its entirety, but it uses Henry's motif as the foundation. On their travels, Henry and his crew ended up passing a yellow signal, which of course, like a traffic light, meant caution. The trouble was that the signal was down, which also meant green for go. So they continued on with no worries. But they should be. Some ways down, the points had froze in the wrong direction, which would end up leading the Flying Kipper into a siding. Making things even worse was the fact that on that particular siding was another train that had a brake van with railway personnel inside. For them, they were relaxing having cocoa, but they also knew that they needed to get back because they were aware of the Kipper passing by, except it wasn't.
They got out just in time.
Holy crap! Our first ever on-screen crash. That was pretty intense if you ask me. Fortunately for everyone on board both trains, nobody was hurt. Which for a show like this, I'd hope so. Poor Henry, on the other hand, can't seem to catch a recess from his problems. First it was rain, then it was coal, now it's just railway operation failures. Henry is just racking up the bill for Top Hat, I swear. Speaking of which, Top Hat finally saw Henry. Thankfully nowhere close to being mad with him. Understanding that it was all a freak accident, Top Hat decided to send Henry to a place called Crew, where he would finally be rid of his cosmetic issues. Henry wasn't sure, though, because of how everything kept going wrong for him.
I'm sending you to Crew, a fine place for sick engines. They'll give you a new shape and a larger firebox. You'll feel a different engine and won't need special coal anymore. Won't that be nice?
But he would be wrong. When Henry came back, he was anything but a troubled engine. Super excited, Henry was greeted by crowds of people upon his arrival. Everyone loved his new shape and were happy to see his triumphant return. As he made his way back, he also took in his surroundings. Seems to have taken a half a year or so to get Henry back in order. We're back to springy summer again. If only winter lasted that long every year for me. And with that, Henry went to work as usual with no issues whatsoever. He even got a small bonus in his activity.
I often see him pulling the Express. He does it so well that Gordon is jealous. But that's another story.
So now, Gordon, James, and Henry can all pull the Express as to what's been shown by now. Somehow, though, James and Henry probably don't pull it as fast as Gordon, though. Otherwise, he wouldn't have this grand title anymore. Aside from this, though, Henry has really come around at this point now, when it comes to dependability. Upon his beginning, Henry was picky and didn't seem like a very committed engine. Since then, he has now become quite an independent and self-sustainable asset to the island. Has his attitude changed on everything? Most likely not, but at least we now know he won't be asking for pity and will be able to do what is asked of him without struggling to do it. This was his and his story alone. Nobody else was involved except for Top Hat, who was really the only one who could say yay or nay on what to do with Henry. As pleasant as the Cole episode was, this is a step up from that one. It's delightful to see how far Henry has come since. The music used for the Flying Kipper is really congenial to the story, from the start of Henry's liftoff to where the tension builds when the points are frozen in the wrong direction. You feel every moment of that. The visuals to this entry are also spot on. We have gotten night shots before of Sodor, but nothing to this extent, and in the snow no less. The early morning dawn from the horizon is really warm feeling from a number of backgrounds, and as stated before, that on-screen crash was startling to watch. We also get our first look at the harbor, something that will become a regular environment as episodes go by. It's a great sneak peek of what's to come. Next episode is Whistles and Sneezes. Thanks for watching.